Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. The year 1998 was a quiet yet transitional time for the Lincoln cent. The familiar copper-plated zinc penny, introduced in 1982, had by then been striking for over a decade, carrying Abraham Lincoln's profile on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other. The Denver Mint, bearing the small D mint mark just below the date, produced hundreds of millions of these coins that year. To the average American, these pennies were unremarkable, just another piece of change rattling at the bottom of pockets or rolling off cash registers. But beneath the flood of mass production, where machines struck relentlessly day and night, something subtle slipped through, an irregularity, a mistake so minor that few would have noticed at first. Yet that single flaw would eventually transform what appeared to be just another common cent into a story worth telling. Imagine the presses in Denver, stamping planchets at lightning speed. Each die strike was meant to be perfect, with Lincoln's solemn face carefully aligned against the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1998. Yet perfection is never absolute, not when millions are struck under immense pressure. It was in this environment of haste and precision that an unusual variety appeared, though no one could have predicted its importance. At first, the coin lived an ordinary life, circulating quietly, exchanged for gum, candy, or coffee, passed along without ceremony. Until, one day, a pair of sharp eyes finally noticed something unusual. For a collector, the discovery did not begin with triumph but curiosity. Sorting through a small batch of pocket change, the collectors set aside a 1998 D penny for closer inspection. Its surface shimmered differently under the light. The details of Lincoln's bust seemed slightly distorted, not in the usual way that wear and tear cause but in a sharper, stranger manner. He tilted it, squinted, and felt a sudden jolt of recognition. The lettering, the spacing between words, even the relief of the portrait itself hinted at something out of alignment. The coin didn't match its peers. Hours turned into days of research. Magnification revealed that the coin wasn't merely worn, it bore the signs of a double die, one of the most fascinating kinds of mint errors. Lincoln's features appeared subtly doubled, and the inscriptions carried faint shadows of themselves. What had first looked like was actually a doubling of the design caused not by circulation, but by a misalignment during the die's creation. The collector's heart raced at the realization, knowing well that double die errors have long been prized treasures in numismatics. It wasn't just a flaw, it was a signature of rarity. Yet in 1998, double dies were not common, at least not like the well-known 1955 or 1969 cents that had captured headlines in the past. Here was something hidden in plain sight, overlooked by many, waiting to be recognized. The collector couldn't help but wonder how many people had unknowingly handled this small anomaly, dismissing it as a simple penny. To him, it was no longer ordinary. It was a piece of history whispering about the imperfections of even the most industrialized systems. As the days passed, whispers spread among collectors. Was it true? Did a 1998 D double die penny really exist? At first, skepticism reigned. Most assumed that by the late 20th century, the mint had long refined its processes to eliminate such blunders. But then, confirmed sightings began to surface. Other collectors pulled examples from circulation, noting the same peculiar doubling. What had once been just one man's discovery began to take on broader significance, and curiosity grew into demand. The journey of its value was not straightforward. In the beginning, the coin was traded modestly, exchanged among enthusiasts for only a few dollars above face value. Many believed it was too minor, too modern, to command serious attention. But as time moved on, the scarcity of clean, preserved examples became undeniable. Collectors realized that while billions of 1998 D cents had been minted, only a minuscule fraction carried this doubling. Its survival in high grades was even rarer, for most circulated heavily before anyone recognized them. The coin's story was a slow crescendo. Its price, once negligible, began to climb. $10 here, $50 there. At auction, pristine examples demanded hundreds, while imperfect yet identifiable specimens fetched far more than their 1-cent face value. The market for error coins thrives not only on rarity but on fascination, and this penny embodied both. Each sale reinforced the belief that this was no fleeting anomaly but a genuine collectible with a growing legacy. But the true twist came not just in its value, but in the very details of its design. Collectors discovered that the error was not uniform. Some 1998 D cents displayed doubling on Lincoln's ear, a striking effect known as the doubled ear variety. The portrait itself seemed to carry an echo, as though history had etched Lincoln's profile twice onto the same coin. For enthusiasts, this was not only visually dramatic but emotionally resonant. It connected them instantly to the great double die errors of earlier decades, carrying forward a lineage of mistakes that had turned cents into legends, and yet, the twist ran deeper. While most double dies occur due to hubbing mishaps in the die-making process, the 1998 D presented an additional layer of intrigue. A small number of coins showed characteristics hinting at overpolishing or misalignment, compounding their individuality. In other words, not all 1998 D errors were identical, each one had its own fingerprint, its own personality within the error family. What seemed at first to be a single story fractured into many smaller tales, each coin carrying subtle distinctions that made collectors obsess over finding just the right example. Over the years, demand transformed into obsession. What had once been dismissed as a modern oddity grew into a respected error, firmly catalogued and studied. Guides began to list the coin, error specialists wrote about it, and auctions began to highlight it. Prices fluctuated with the ebb and flow of numismatic markets, rising in times of high demand, dipping when interest cooled, but always maintaining a steady presence far above its face value. For the collector who had first set aside that ordinary penny, the journey was deeply personal. He could still recall the moment he tilted the coin under a lamp, the faint doubling catching his eye. To him, that small imperfection wasn't just an error, it was proof that even in the mechanical precision of the U.S. Mint, humanity's touch lingered. A single flawed die, multiplied across thousands of strikes, had created an accidental rarity. Today, when one of these 1998 D double die cents appears, it carries with it an aura of suspense. Will it be the bold doubled ear variety, with Lincoln's features strikingly repeated? Will it be a subtler doubling, noticeable only under magnification, a treasure for the sharpest eyes? Or will it reveal some slight twist never before catalogued, adding yet another layer to its mystery? The anticipation keeps collectors searching, hoping that the next penny in their change might not be just copper-plated zinc, but a hidden relic worth far more. This coin, struck in an era when the Lincoln Memorial reverse was nearing its end, now stands as a reminder that history leaves its mark in the smallest of places. By 2009, the reverse design would change to commemorate Lincoln's bicentennial, and by 2010, the shield reverse would replace the memorial entirely. The 1998 D error, then, sits at a turning point in the cents history, bridging the familiar past with the shifting designs of the future. Its value continues to evolve. Collectors track sales, speculate on trends, and watch as examples in top condition grow scarcer with time. Every auction feels like a roll of the dice, with bidders holding their breath, wondering just how far this small cent will climb. A coin that once bought bubblegum or bus fare now inspires competition and reverence, its worth measured not in cents but in stories. And so, the 1998 D US 1 cent penny, with its double die and its whispers of imperfection, reminds us that even in the most common objects, rarity hides. Somewhere among billions of coins, a handful emerged different, carrying echoes of the dies that struck them. For those who stumble upon one, the discovery is never just financial, it is the thrill of holding history in the palm of a hand, a reminder that chance and error can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. The year 2017 marked a turning point in American coinage, though few realized it at the time. The United States Mint, in commemoration of its 225th anniversary, made a decision that seemed small on the surface but would quietly ripple through the collecting world for years to come. For the first time in history, the familiar Lincoln cent struck at the Philadelphia Mint carried a tiny but significant mark, an unmistakable P mint mark, resting beneath the date. For over a century, Philadelphia had struck cents without any letter at all, maintaining a kind of anonymity. But 2017 broke the tradition. What appeared as a minor design adjustment was, in truth, a subtle historical milestone, one that would eventually intertwine with an even stranger story. Billions of these coins poured into circulation, copper-plated zinc pieces with the same composition collectors had grown used to since 1982. To the casual eye, they were indistinguishable from other modern pennies. Yet within this vast sea of ordinary strikes, certain anomalies slipped quietly into the hands of unsuspecting people. At first, no one noticed. Pennies are rarely scrutinized, often dismissed, tossed into jars, left in drawers. But somewhere, in the humdrum rhythm of commerce, errors began to surface, faint whispers in metal form. Some coins displayed doubling, faint distortions in the inscriptions or date. Others revealed off-center strikes or faint die cracks across Lincoln's profile. And among them lurked subtler, more puzzling flaws that collectors couldn't immediately categorize. It began with a collector who wasn't even looking for anything extraordinary. He emptied a handful of change onto his desk one evening, letting the coins scatter under the lamp's glow. The 2017 date caught his attention not because of rarity, but because he remembered the Philadelphia P mint mark had been introduced that year. He lifted the coin, turning it between his fingers, when something odd struck him. The motto, "In God We Trust," seemed off, as though the letters carried a faint shadow. The liberty along the side appeared thicker than usual, stretched as if the die had doubled during striking. His pulse quickened. He had seen doubling before, but this felt different, sharper in some places, blurred in others. He compared it to other pennies in his pile. The difference was undeniable. At first, he assumed it was machine doubling, a relatively common phenomenon with little premium. But something about the way the extra impressions layered themselves across the lettering seemed too distinct, too consistent. He posted a photograph to an online forum of fellow collectors. The responses were cautious at first, probably machine doubling, some said. Others urged him to check with a loupe, to examine the thickness of the serifs. He did, and the evidence grew clearer. This was not mechanical. It bore the hallmarks of a double die, one of the rarest and most coveted types of minting errors. The revelation rippled through the collecting community. If even one double die had been confirmed, there had to be others. People began scouring their change, grabbing handfuls of 2017 pennies from banks, corner stores, and coffee shop tip jars. Some found nothing unusual. Others turned up pieces with faint die cracks resembling scars running across Lincoln's bust. A few uncovered off-center strikes. The design shifted awkwardly, leaving a blank crescent of copper along the edge. Each discovery pushed the 2017 into greater curiosity. Suddenly, what had seemed like a forgettable issue became a modern treasure hunt. As word spread, so too did speculation about value. Early on, these coins sold for only modest premiums. A collector might snag one for $5, maybe $10, if the error was sharp enough. But as the market caught fire, the prices began to climb. Those who had dismissed the coin at first watched in disbelief as the bids rose higher on online auctions. The double die examples, particularly those where Liberty and the date showed crisp, unmistakable doubling, commanded the most attention. Pieces once ignored as pocket change now fetched $20, then $50, then over $100. Some auctions spiraled upward, driven by bidding wars, collectors unwilling to let such an anomaly slip away. The coin's journey was strange not because of its immediate rarity, but because of how quickly perception shifted. For decades, the Lincoln cent had been viewed as a declining collectible, its vast mintages overshadowing any sense of scarcity. Yet here was proof that even in the modern age, when billions rolled off presses each year, something extraordinary could still slip through. The 2017 was no ancient relic, no silver beauty from a bygone era, but its story carried a thrill of discovery, a reminder that hidden treasures might lurk even in one's pocket. But the most intriguing part came when further study revealed just how unpredictable the errors were. Some coins displayed doubling in only one section of the design. Others showed faint but dramatic extra outlines across Lincoln's eye, giving him a ghostly, doubled stare. A few rare pieces seemed almost to split the date itself, creating a phantom, 2017, beneath the true one. Each coin carried its own personality, its own fingerprint of imperfection. Collectors who had assumed there was only one type of double die now realized there were multiple varieties, each carrying its own degree of rarity and value. The suspense of which variety one might find added an almost addictive edge to the hunt. The impact on the market was profound. Dealers began advertising rolls of 2017 cents, knowing that eager searchers would pay a premium simply for the chance at finding an error. Coin shows buzzed with talk of the newest discoveries. Some hobbyists dismissed the hype, insisting it was a passing trend. But for those who held the best examples, the rewards only grew. A high-grade double die cent, certified by a grading service, could now reach into the hundreds of dollars, an almost unbelievable leap from its 1-cent face value. Yet the twist that truly set the coin apart was not just the doubling or cracks. It was the realization that 2017, the very year the Philadelphia Mint marked its anniversary with a P mint mark for the first and only time, had also given birth to these unexpected anomalies. That mint mark, meant merely as a commemorative gesture, became forever tied to a string of errors that elevated the coin's mystique. In future years, Philadelphia returned to its tradition of issuing cents without a mint mark. The P appeared only once. That fleeting decision, paired with the coincidental appearance of remarkable errors, made the 2017 P an irreplaceable chapter in U.S. numismatic history. Collectors began to wonder whether the mint itself had underestimated the risks of altering its process. Some speculated that the introduction of the P created slight adjustments in die preparation, opening the door to mistakes. Others argued it was sheer coincidence. Whatever the cause, the outcome was undeniable. The 2017 P cent, mass-produced in the billions, had become a landscape of hidden gems, each discovery adding to its legend. One collector, who had originally dismissed the coin, later stumbled upon a specimen with an unmistakable die crack stretching like a lightning bolt from Lincoln's hairline to the rim. He nearly spent it without noticing, only pausing when the light caught the raised scar. Years later, that very coin sold for hundreds at auction. Another enthusiast uncovered a piece where the entire reverse seemed faint, the shield design partially missing due to a weak strike. The uniqueness of each error created a sense that no two collectors' journeys were the same. The rise in value was not uniform, and that was part of the allure. Some errors remained modest, trading hands for small premiums. Others escalated wildly, driven by demand and the drama of competition. Stories spread of individuals finding multiple varieties in a single bankroll, their modest investment turning into a minor windfall. Suspense clung to every sealed roll, every handful of change, because no one could predict what might appear next. The 2017 P penny became more than a coin, it became a symbol of modern numismatics' unpredictability. It reminded collectors that history can unfold even in the smallest places, that significance does not always rest in rarity alone, but in the convergence of timing, symbolism, and error. The Philadelphia Mint, in commemorating its long legacy, inadvertently created a cent that would outshine many of its ordinary counterparts, and as the years passed, the coin's reputation only grew. Auction records captured the steady climb of its finest errors. Collectors who had once laughed at the idea of searching modern pennies now spent hours peering through magnifying glasses, chasing the elusive varieties. The irony was impossible to ignore. A coin worth a single cent had, through flaw and circumstance, transformed into an object capable of commanding hundreds, even thousands, depending on its form. What began as a minor mint mark in 2017 had blossomed into one of the most compelling stories in recent U.S. coinage. Within that story lived the suspense of discovery, the thrill of rarity, and the peculiar twist of history colliding with error. The 2017 P penny was not just struck in metal, it was struck in memory, in excitement, in the shared journeys of collectors who realized that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprises.